I never thought there would come a day when my own parents would look me in the eye and tell me that my children were not welcome in their home. But there I was, standing there, phone in hand, my heart tightening as if it were being squeezed. It felt like gripping a rope, believing it would keep you safe only to realize it had been cut long ago, and you were free-falling. Thanksgiving was only a few weeks away, and I had told myself that this year might be different, that no matter how many times I had been hurt, I still wanted to hold on to my family. But then that call came, and with every word my mother spoke, I realized just how wrong I had been. Meg, we're doing Thanksgiving a little differently this year. My mom's voice was light, as if she were mentioning something unimportant. I gripped my phone tighter, trying to ignore the uneasy feeling creeping in. "Oh? What do you mean?" I asked, already picturing the familiar dinner at my parents' house, the table filled with the smell of roasted turkey, cinnamon in the air, and the warmth of family chatter. She hesitated for a moment before continuing. "We're keeping it smaller this year, more intimate. Just adults." I froze. "You mean no kids?" Silence, just a few seconds, but enough for me to understand. That's right, just this year, Meg. We just want a quiet dinner." Ah. Something inside my chest cracked. "But why just my kids? What about Josh's?" Josh, my brother, the golden child in my parents' eyes. I already knew the answer before she said it. "Josh and Natalie are coming with their kids," she admitted, "but you know how well-behaved they are, they're not too energetic." I gripped my phone tighter, feeling like I had just been slapped. "So my kids aren't well-behaved enough to be there?" I asked, my voice controlled but sharp. My mom sighed. "That's not what I meant, Meg. It's just Sammy and Lily are adorable, but they have so much energy. This year I just want a peaceful evening without too much noise or running around." I let out a bitter laugh. "So the problem isn't the kids, it's just my kids. You don't want them there." "Meg, don't be so dramatic," my mom snapped, irritation creeping into her tone. "It's just one dinner. You and Mark can still come. We're still a family." Family? I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. For years, I had tried to prove that I was just as important as Josh in our parents' eyes, that my children deserved the same love and attention as his. But the truth was, we were never truly equal. "Mom," I said, my voice ice cold, "if my kids aren't welcome, then neither am I." "Meg, stop being so stubborn," my mother snapped. I shook my head, even though she couldn't see it. "I'm not being stubborn, Mom. You made this decision, not me." A long silence stretched between us. Then, she let out a dry chuckle. "Suit yourself. But don't regret it later." The call ended. I stared at my phone, gripping it so tightly my knuckles turned white. From the living room, soft giggles echoed. I turned and saw Sammy and Lily playing with blankets, building a little fort. They had no idea that just moments ago the grandparents they adored had pushed them out of the family. Swallowing the lump in my throat, I walked over to them with a gentle smile. "All right, who wants to watch a cartoon?" Lily squealed in delight and Sammy bounced excitedly, just like always. I pulled them both into my arms, pressing kisses onto their soft hair, and made a silent promise to myself. I would never let anyone make them feel like they weren't enough. Never. My phone buzzed just minutes after the call with my mother ended. I glanced at the screen and a familiar name appeared. Josh. Of course. I swiped my finger across the screen and opened the message. "Josh, Mom just called me. She said you're blowing things out of proportion again. Meg, why do you always have to cause problems?" A wave of anger surged through me, as if this was my fault, as if standing up for my children was somehow unreasonable. I typed back slowly and deliberately. "Me, causing problems? For refusing to accept that my kids were excluded from the family. Do you even realize what you're defending?" The typing bubbles appeared, then disappeared. Clearly he was trying to figure out what to say. "Josh, no one said your kids aren't loved, they're just too loud. Mom and Dad just want a peaceful evening." I clenched my teeth. Peaceful. A simple word, yet it carried such a clear distinction. They had never said that about Josh's kids. "Me, what about your kids? Were they asked to stay home?" Another pause. "Josh, my kids behave, Meg. They know how to sit still and not make a fuss." I let out a bitter laugh, exactly as I expected. Me, you know what, Josh? You can pretend this isn't a big deal. But the truth is, Mom and Dad have always favored you, and now they're doing the same with your kids. They didn't just exclude my kids from Thanksgiving, they expect me to ignore it and pretend it never happened. I've done that for years, but not this time. This time, he didn't respond. I put my phone down, my heart pounding with anger. I had hoped that at least my brother would recognize the unfairness, but no, he just wanted everything to remain peaceful. As long as that unfairness didn't affect him. In the days that followed, my mom continued texting, but this time, not to apologize. Mom, Meg, you're acting like a child. Your father and I meant no harm. Why do you always have to make things such a big deal? And, Mom, we are a family. If you want to keep holding on to this grudge, that's your choice, but I think it's time for you to grow up. I didn't respond. I had heard these words too many times before. Every time I refused to do what they wanted, I was being difficult or stubborn. But this time, I wasn't falling into their manipulation. A week later, my phone rang again. This time it was my dad. I answered. Meg. His voice was deep, serious. Can you stop giving your mother such a hard time? I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. Dad? Mom is the one who made this decision. I'm just reacting to it. He sighed. I don't understand why you're being so sensitive. Your mother just wanted a peaceful evening. Then why were my kids the only ones not allowed to come, but Josh's were? I asked bluntly. There was silence for a moment before he finally said, Meg, you're tearing this family apart. A deep exhaustion settled over me. No, Dad, I said quietly. This family fell apart a long time ago. I'm just finally realizing it. For the first time in years, I began to see everything clearly. I remembered how my parents always called me when they needed help, but never Josh. I was the one who scheduled their doctor's appointments, fixed things around their house, and even paid some of their bills when they claimed they were short on money. I was the one who spent every holiday in the kitchen preparing meals while Josh and his wife simply sat down to enjoy them. I was the one who ran out to get medicine when Mom was sick, but when I gave birth, she stopped by once, brought a box of supermarket cookies and left after 15 minutes. And Josh? Josh never had to do anything. And that was never a problem for them. I had been used and taken for granted for so long that I hadn't even noticed, but now, I saw it all. I decided to stop being the dutiful daughter they expected me to be. They called me to ask for help with groceries. I didn't pick up. They texted me to come check a leaking pipe at their house. I simply replied, call a plumber. They needed me to organize my dad's birthday party. I sent a short message, happy birthday, Dad. No more rushing over whenever they needed something. No more pushing aside my own feelings to accommodate theirs. No more being the Meg who did everything and received no respect in return. In the weeks that followed, the calls and messages from them started to slow down. Maybe they thought I would come back, like I always had. But not this time. I was no longer the daughter they could call whenever they needed help, yet never important enough to be treated fairly. I had cut off that dependency, and I knew one thing for sure. They wouldn't accept it easily. My phone rang on Saturday morning while I was making coffee in the kitchen. I glanced at the screen. Mom. I sighed, set my cup down and hesitated for a moment before answering. Meg, what happened to the credit card? My mother's voice was sharp, irritated, skipping any kind of greeting. I frowned. What credit card? The one your father and I use for groceries, gas, the phone bill? It got declined at the store this morning. A cold chill ran down my spine. I didn't have any credit card under their names. But suddenly the pieces started falling into place. Those odd charges on my statements that I had always assumed were mistakes. Those expenses I never remembered making. I swallowed down the anger rising inside me. You mean my credit card? She paused for a moment, then spoke in a tone as if I were overreacting. Oh, Meg, don't act like this is some shocking discovery. I thought you knew. When your father had his knee surgery 5 years ago, you added us as authorized users to help us through that rough patch. You never said anything about stopping it, so I assumed you left it there. I froze. 5 years ago. I really had done that when my dad was unable to work and their finances were tight, but it was supposed to be temporary. I had never imagined they would keep using it for 5 years without ever mentioning it. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. So all this time, you knew it was my card, but you never once thought to ask me if I still wanted to help? She scoffed. Oh, come on, Meg. You make good money. Helping out your parents isn't that big of a deal. I let out a cold, humorless laugh. Not a big deal? Do you even know how much of my money you've spent? Mom went silent. I quickly walked over to my computer, opened my banking app and scrolled through the transaction history. The numbers on the screen made me want to throw my phone. Every month, at least a few $100s had been withdrawn from my account. Over the past 5 years, the total had added up to tens of thousands of dollars. I gripped my phone tighter. Mom, you've spent nearly $40,000 of my money over the last 5 years, without me even knowing. She let out a dismissive chuckle. Meg, why are you making such a big deal out of this? It's just a few regular expenses. Regular? I nearly shouted. Do you have any idea how hard I work for that money? And you didn't even bother to tell me? My mom sighed, her tone turning colder. Meg, stop overreacting. We raised you, took care of you since you were a child. You have a house, a good job, everything you need. What's so wrong with helping your parents a little? I tightened my grip on the phone. I had heard these words for years, that I owed them, that everything I had was because of them. But this time, it didn't work on me anymore. I'm canceling the card immediately, I said, not giving her a chance to argue. Her tone shifted instantly, turning sharp and cutting. Meg, you're being incredibly selfish. You're going to regret this. I didn't respond. I simply hung up, opened my phone and revoked all of their access to my account. 10 minutes later, my phone rang again. Josh. Of course, I saw this coming. I answered, Josh, what do you want? He sighed. Mom just called me. Did you really cut off their credit card? Yes, I said flatly. Meg, don't you think you're overreacting a bit? I let out a cold laugh. Are you seriously calling stealing nearly $40,000 from my account a small issue? Josh was silent for a second before finally saying, They didn't mean any harm. They just thought you were still willing to help them. I gripped my phone tightly. Do you even know what they spent that money on, Josh? I just checked the statements. There are charges for spa treatments, designer clothes, weekend getaways. Mom even bought a $700 coffee machine with my money. Josh went silent. Clearly, he had no idea. I continued, my voice sharp as a knife. This isn't helping family, Josh. This is exploitation. He cleared his throat. Meg, I get that you're upset, but they're still our parents. Cutting them off financially entirely seems a bit extreme. I scoffed. Extreme for who? For them or for you? Or are you just worried they'll start asking you for money instead of me? Silence. I knew I had hit a nerve. Finally he sighed. Meg, just send them a small amount each month. Something reasonable. That way no one has to deal with all this tension. A chilling numbness spread through me. They had stolen from me for 5 years, and now they were asking me to keep giving, just on a reasonable scale? I spoke slowly. No. I'm not giving them another cent. Josh inhaled sharply. Then don't expect Mom and Dad to forgive you. I smirked. I don't need their forgiveness. I ended the call. This time without a shred of hesitation. I had had enough. 3 days after the call with Josh, I received a letter. Liam found it in the mailbox when he went to grab the morning paper. He frowned when he saw the sender's name and handed it to me. It's from your parents, he said. My heart pounded as I tore open the envelope. A thick stack of papers slipped out, with bolded words glaring at me from the top of the first page. Notice of payment request for childhood expenses. I had to read it twice to believe what I was seeing. My parents were demanding repayment for every expense they had ever spent on raising me, with a final total printed clearly at the bottom of the page. $79,860. I let out a laugh, one that held absolutely no humor. Liam pulled the paper from my hands and skimmed through it. His face darkened. They included everything: food, clothing, school, medical expenses, even the birthday gifts they bought you as a child. I crossed my arms and leaned against the kitchen counter. Wonderful, they actually itemized every single thing. Liam tossed the stack of papers onto the table. What do they think they're going to do with this? Sue you? I shrugged. Isn't that their plan? They already threatened to take legal action if I stopped sending them money. This is probably their way of pressuring me into giving in. A slow burning anger rose in my chest. Did they actually think they could charge me for being their child? They hadn't raised me out of love. They had done it because they saw me as an investment. something they were now trying to cash in on. I stood up, grabbing my car keys. I'm gonna see them. Liam looked at me, concern written all over his face. Are you sure? I nodded. It's time to put an end to this. I knocked on my parents' door. A moment later my mom opened it. When she saw me, she raised an eyebrow, looking completely unsurprised. I expected you to come sooner, she said, her tone almost taunting. I stepped into the living room without waiting for an invitation. My dad was sitting on the couch, a cup of coffee in his hand, looking smug. I tossed the letter onto the table. What the hell is this? My dad glanced at it like it was nothing more than a meaningless piece of paper. It's what's fair, Meg. We spent a lot of money raising you. It's time for you to pay it back. I let out a sharp laugh, shaking my head. Fair? You actually think you can bill me for my childhood? Do you even hear how insane that sounds? My mom crossed her arms, her voice sickly sweet but laced with mockery. We just want you to understand that you have a responsibility to this family. If you refuse to support us financially, then the least you can do is repay what we invested in you. My entire body trembled with anger. Have you ever sent Josh a bill like this? I asked, locking eyes with them. My mom's gaze flicked to my dad for the briefest second before turning back to me. Josh is a devoted son. He's never turned his back on us. I let out a cold, humorless laugh. Oh, so I'm just an ATM to you? My dad set his coffee down, his voice sharp as a blade. If you don't want to resolve this peacefully, then we'll have to involve a lawyer. I met his eyes, then slowly picked up the letter. I tore it in half, then in half again, and again. My mom's mouth fell open. Meg, what are you doing? I let the shredded pieces fall to the floor, my voice eerily calm. Just taking out the trash. I turned and walked straight to the door, but before leaving I looked back and spoke each word with clarity. You will not get a single cent from me, not now, not ever. For the next few weeks I heard nothing from them. I had thought that maybe, finally, they understood that I was no longer their puppet. But I was wrong. On New Year's Eve, as Liam and I were getting the kids ready for our small family celebration, the doorbell rang. I opened the door and immediately I felt the winter chill. But it wasn't just from the weather. My parents stood there along with Josh and Natalie. I crossed my arms. What now? My mom smiled, but there was no warmth in it. We need to talk. No, we don't, I replied, moving to shut the door. My dad blocked it with his hand. Meg, if you don't listen, you're going to regret it. I raised an eyebrow. Regret it? What kind of stunt are you trying to pull this time? Josh sighed, as if I was the one causing trouble. Meg, Mom and Dad have consulted a lawyer. They're looking into grandparents' rights. I blinked, then let out a laugh. You mean they want to sue me to force visitation with Sammy and Lily? My mom shrugged. We all know you're just acting out of anger, but you don't have the right to keep the kids away from their family. I glanced around, then slowly pulled out my phone. Go ahead if you want to take this to court, be my guest. But before you do, remember, I have every text, every voicemail, every threat, and every record of you stealing from my account. My dad clenched his jaw. Meg, don't make this worse than it has to be. I shrugged. Go ahead and try. Let's see who actually ends up regretting it. No one spoke. Finally, my mom sighed. Happy New Year, Meg. I smiled sweetly. Yeah. Good luck with your ridiculous lawsuit. And then I slammed the door shut. Liam walked out of the living room, raising an eyebrow. What now? I smiled, feeling lighter than I ever had before. Nothing important, just some garbage that needed to be taken out. I walked over to my kids and wrapped them in my arms, knowing without a doubt, I had won. In the days after New Year's Eve, I waited for their next move. I thought they would try another tactic, maybe more threats, more guilt-tripping, maybe even an actual legal notice. But nothing came. Not trusting their silence, I checked my emails, my mailbox, and even my missed calls. Still, nothing. A week passed, then 2, then a month. No legal papers, no calls from attorneys, no more threats from Josh. Nothing. They had given up. I didn't know exactly when they realized they had lost, but maybe it was my silence that told them the truth. That I was no longer theirs to manipulate. They couldn't win because, in the end, I had taken back control of my life. Life after that was quieter, more peaceful than ever before. Every morning I woke up without dreading a phone call demanding something from me. No more guilt-tripping messages. No more accusations that I was a terrible daughter just because I refused to be used. For the first time in my life, I felt free. Sammy and Lily remained as carefree as ever, completely unaware of the storm that had passed. To them, life was still about blanket forts on lazy afternoons, Sunday mornings running through the park with balloons, and cozy movie nights on the couch. But for me, everything had completely changed. I no longer tried to please people who never truly valued me. I no longer questioned myself every time I chose to put my own family first. I no longer felt indebted to my parents for a past they constantly used as a tool to manipulate me. I had won, not because I wanted a battle, but because I had finally stopped fighting for things that weren't worth it. One afternoon in mid-March, I sat on the porch, watching Lily and Sammy play on the grass. Liam stepped outside with 2 glasses of lemonade, placing one in my hand. "Do you think they've given up?" he asked, his voice gentle but meaningful. I shrugged, though deep down I already knew the answer. Probably. They don't have a choice anymore. He sat beside me, his gaze warm. "Do you regret it?" I laughed, not for a single second. He gave my hand a reassuring squeeze, a quiet reminder that I had never been alone in this fight. I looked ahead, watching our kids play without a care in the world. For years I had believed that if I let go of my relationship with my parents, I would be losing a vital part of my life. I had feared that if I stopped giving in, I would be left without a family. But I had been wrong. Family isn't defined by the people who gave you life, not if their love comes with conditions. Family is made up of the people who stand by you because they want to, not because they need something from you. I may have lost my biological parents, but I still had Liam. I still had Sammy and Lily. I had my own family, a real family, one where I didn't have to prove my worth, where I didn't have to beg for acceptance. A soft breeze passed by, carrying the light scent of spring. I took a sip of my lemonade, letting the sweet and tangy flavors spread across my tongue. Peace had never tasted so sweet. Life isn't always fair, and sometimes the people who are supposed to love us unconditionally are the ones who hurt us the most. But the important thing is we always have a choice. The choice to put ourselves and those who truly love us first. Meg spent her whole life seeking approval from her parents, only to realize that love should never come with conditions or be used for control. When she finally let go, she didn't lose her family, she found her real one. And sometimes, that is the greatest victory of all. What do you think about Meg's story? Have you ever faced a similar situation or know someone who has struggled with family manipulation? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to follow the channel for more heartfelt, real-life stories about family and life.